The wind on the frontier world never stopped. It moved across the dry plains like a living thing, carrying dust, old ash, and the distant sound of broken machines. Far from the main trade routes, far from the shining alien capitals, a single human settlement stood against the emptiness. It was not a city. It was barely a town. A few metal structures, solar towers and landing pads built by hands that expected trouble, not comfort. Among these humans lived a man who did not speak much. His name was Elias Ward. He had once been a soldier in humanity's first interstellar war. When that war ended, the galaxy moved on. Alliances shifted. Empires rebuilt. But Elias did not return to Earth. He chose exile. Not because he was wanted, but because he was tired of watching the innocent pay the price for decisions made far away. So he stayed on the edge of space. That night, Elias was repairing a power relay when the sky changed. The stars twisted as something tore through the atmosphere. A burning shape screamed across the darkness and crashed beyond the ridge, sending a deep shock through the ground. Alarms rang across the settlement. Humans reached for weapons out of habit, not fear. Elias stood still for a moment, listening. That was not a pirate ship, not a trader either. The engines sounded wrong, damaged, running on reserve power. He took his rifle, activated his comm, and moved toward the crash site alone. The wreck lay broken in a shallow crater. Alien metal, elegant and curved, torn open like a wound. Smoke rose into the night sky. The ship bore royal markings, symbols Elias had seen only in archived data. He frowned. Royal ships did not crash on forgotten human worlds by accident. Then he heard crying. Soft, small. Elias moved faster. Near the open hull, an alien woman knelt in the dirt. She was tall but thin, her royal garments torn and stained. Her skin carried a faint natural glow, not bright, not unnatural, just different from human skin. In her arms she held a child tightly, shielding her from the cold wind. The woman looked up when she sensed him. Fear crossed her face first, then relief, then something heavier, desperation. She stood slowly, careful not to frighten him. Her voice trembled when she spoke in broken but clear galactic common. "Please do not send me away." Elias did not lower his weapon, but he did not raise it either. "You're injured," he said. "Not badly," she replied. "My ship is, and my time is." The child in her arms looked at Elias with wide eyes. She could not have been more than 6 or 7 cycles old by human measure. She clutched her mother's clothing and said nothing. Elias exhaled slowly. "You're far from any empire," he said. "Why come here?" The woman swallowed, "Because humans are not owned by the old houses." That answer surprised him. "My name is Sarilith," she said quietly. "I was once a princess of the Virelian Star Court." Elias stiffened. The Virelians were powerful, proud, dangerous when threatened. "Was," he repeated. "Yes," her voice cracked. "My family is dead, my world taken. Those who now rule want my bloodline erased." Elias glanced at the wreck again. He could already imagine the tracking signals, the hunters that would follow. "You should leave," he said. "If they find you here, they won't stop at you." Sarilith lowered her head. "That is why I came," she said, "because they believe humans will not interfere." She looked up again, eyes shining not with pride but with fear held back by will alone. "I was wrong to believe my title could protect my daughter," she continued. "It only painted a target on her." The child pressed closer to her mother. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. "I cannot protect you from the galaxy," he said honestly. Sarilith took a breath. Then she did something no royal being should ever do. She knelt. The dirt stained her robes. She did not care. "Then protect us by law," she said. Elias stared at her. "I ask you," she said, voice shaking but strong, "to take me as your concubine." The word fell into the night like a blade. The wind seemed to stop. Elias lowered his rifle slowly. "You don't know what you're saying," he said. "I do," Sarilith replied. "In my culture, concubinage is not ownership. It is protection, a binding claim recognized across species. If you accept my life and my child's life fall under your authority, any who harm us would be attacking a human directly. Elias clenched his jaw. You would give up your title, he said. I already have, she answered. I would give up anything to keep my daughter alive. The child looked up at Elias again, not afraid, just curious. He had seen that look before, on refugee ships, on broken colonies, on children who learned too early that the universe was not kind. Elias turned away and paced for a moment. Accepting would paint a target on his back, on the settlement, on every human there. Refusing would mean death for a child who had done nothing wrong. Get up, he said finally. Sarilith rose slowly. I won't decide here, Elias said. Follow me. We'll talk where the cameras are on. They walked back to the settlement under the stars. Humans watched from a distance but did not interfere. They trusted Elias. If he brought aliens in, there was a reason. Inside the command building, medics examined Sarilith and the child. Minor injuries, dehydration, exhaustion. The child's name was Lyra. She did not cry once. Elias sat across from Sarilith at a metal table. Tell me everything, he said, so she did. She spoke of betrayal in the court, of rival houses that feared her bloodline's claim, of a silent coup carried out with poison and false accusations. She escaped only because loyal guards bought time with their lives. They will not stop, she said, even here. Elias believed her. If I accept, he said, there are rules, she nodded. I will obey human law. No, he corrected. You will live under it, not as property, not as a prisoner. She looked confused. I don't take concubines, Elias said. I don't own people. Sarilith bowed her head. Then I ask for your guardianship. That is what it will be, he said. You and your daughter will be under my protection, nothing more. Tears finally fell from her eyes. That is more than enough, she whispered. Elias activated the settlement recorder. By human frontier law, he said clearly, I accept responsibility for Sarilith of Virlia and her child Lyra. Any harm against them is harm against me. The system logged it. Somewhere far away, alarms would soon ring. That night, Lyra slept for the first time without fear. Elias stood outside under the stars, knowing the galaxy had just taken notice of a human who chose to stand. And humans, when they stand, do not step aside easily. Morning came slowly on the frontier world. The sky turned from black to deep blue, then to pale gold as the distant star rose above the plains. For most of the settlement, it was a normal day. Power checks, trade reports, patrol rotations. But for Elias Ward, nothing felt normal anymore. He stood on the outer platform, watching sensors scroll across a transparent screen. Long-range scanners were quiet, but that meant very little. The galaxy was large, and hunters were patient. Behind him, light footsteps approached. Lyra. She walked carefully, holding a small metal cup filled with warm, nutrient drink the medics had prepared. She stopped a few steps away from Elias, unsure if she was allowed to speak. Elias noticed her reflection on the screen. You don't have to be quiet, he said without turning. Lyra smiled slightly and stepped closer. Mother says I should not disturb you. Elias turned and crouched so he was at her eye level. You're not a disturbance. She studied his face, her head tilting a little. You are different from the others. Good or bad? She thought for a moment. Different like strong walls, she said. Not pretty, but safe. Elias felt a tightness in his chest and nodded once. That's fair. She handed him the cup. For you. Thank you. She watched him drink, then ran back inside where her mother waited. Sarilith stood near the doorway, her posture straight but tense. She had changed out of her torn royal garments into simple human clothing. It did not suit her old status, but it made her less visible, less of a target. You do not need to watch her constantly, Sarilith said softly. Elias shook his head. Habit, Sarilith hesitated. Elias, the bond you declared last night is protection, he interrupted. Nothing else. I know, she said quickly. I am grateful. But you must understand what will happen now. I do, he replied. They'll come, she nodded. and they will not come openly at first. They walked together along the platform overlooking the settlement. Humans moved below, working calmly. None of them panicked. None of them asked questions. They trusted Elias to make hard decisions. My people believe humans avoid long conflicts, Sarilith said. They think you burn bright, then retreat. Elias allowed himself a thin smile. That's what people say when they survive the first encounter. She studied him carefully. You are not afraid. I am, he answered, but fear doesn't decide things. A low chime echoed through the command building. Incoming transmission. Elias' expression hardened. That didn't take long. They entered the communication room. The screen activated, revealing a tall alien figure draped in dark ceremonial armor. His eyes were cold, calculating. "Human ward," the alien said. "You are in possession of property belonging to the Virelian Star Court." Sarilith stiffened but did not step forward. Elias crossed his arms. "You're mistaken. The female and the child are fugitives," the alien replied. "Return them and your settlement will not be harmed." Elias leaned forward slightly. "They're under my protection." The alien's lips curled. "You are a single human on a forgotten world." Elias' voice remained calm. "Then this should be easy for you." Silence followed. "You claim concubine rights," the alien said slowly. "That bond is invalid without court approval." Elias tapped the console. "Human frontier law recognizes it. Attack them and you attack a human citizen." "You would risk war for an alien." Elias looked directly into the camera. "I would risk war for a child." The alien's eyes narrowed. "This conversation is not over." The screen went dark. Sarilith let out a slow breath. "They will test you." "They always do," Elias said. Within hours, strange signals appeared near the system's edge. Probes, listening devices, small, careful steps. Elias called a settlement meeting. Humans gathered in the central hall, engineers, traders, former soldiers, families. No panic, just attention. "They know we're here," Elias said. "They want what's under my protection." A murmur spread, but no one protested. A woman raised her hand. "Are we evacuating?" "No," Elias said. "Not unless you choose to." Another voice spoke. "If they attack," Elias met their eyes. "Then they learn something about humans." That was enough. Preparations began quietly. Shields reinforced. Old defense platforms powered up. Civilian shelters stocked. Messages sent to distant human networks. No pleas, just notices. Sarilith watched all of this with growing disbelief. "You do this for strangers?" she asked Elias later. "For people," he corrected. That night, Lyra sat beside Elias as he repaired a small drone. She watched his hands move with focus. "Are the bad ones coming?" she asked. "Yes." "Will they hurt Mother?" Elias stopped working and looked at her. "No," she believed him without question. The first attack came without warning. A single alien strike craft entered orbit, broadcasting a legal challenge. It demanded surrender under ancient codes. Elias responded with silence. The craft fired a warning shot toward empty land. The settlement shields absorbed it easily. Then the human defense grid activated. Precise, controlled, non-lethal targeting first. The alien craft lost engines and drifted helplessly into space. The message was clear. Hours later, more ships appeared. This time, they did not speak. The sky burned as weapons fire streaked across orbit. Human defenses answered with cold efficiency. Drones swarmed. Electronic warfare blinded targeting systems. Sarilith watched from the command room, holding Lyra close. "They are stronger than I was told," she whispered. Elias stood beside her. "They always underestimate preparation." The battle did not last long. The alien ships withdrew, damaged and confused, but Elias knew this was only the beginning. Later, when the settlement slept, Sarilith approached him. "You have bound yourself to us," she said quietly. "Even if you regret it later, my people will never forget." Elias looked out at the stars. "Neither will mine," she hesitated. "Why do humans do this?" "Do what?" "Stand when it would be easier to step aside." Elias thought of Earth, of old wars, of promises made over graves. Because if we don't, he said, someone smaller always pays the price. Lyra slept peacefully behind them. And far across the galaxy, powerful beings began to realize that a single human decision had changed the balance more than any fleet ever could. The quiet after the first battles did not bring peace. It brought waiting. Days passed, then weeks. The settlement remained alert. Sensors stayed active at all hours. Patrol drones circled like silent birds. No one relaxed, but no one complained either. Humans had learned long ago that calm could be more dangerous than chaos. Elias knew the truth even if others did not say it aloud. The alien forces had pulled back not because they were defeated, but because they were thinking. Sarilith felt it too. She stood beside Elias in the observation tower, watching the stars. "They are gathering," she said softly. "My people never strike again without changing the rules." Elias nodded. "Then we'll change them first." Messages began arriving from beyond the system. Not threats, questions. Careful probes from neutral alien states, trade guilds, and minor houses. They all wanted the same thing, confirmation. A human had claimed guardianship over a fallen alien princess and her child, and he had defended that claim with force. The idea unsettled the galaxy. One evening, a secure channel opened. Elias recognized the encryption immediately. Human-made, old military code. The screen flickered, revealing a familiar face marked by scars and time. "Didn't think you'd stay quiet forever," said Commander Rhea Solis. Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Wasn't planning to." "You stirred the hive," she said. "Half the frontier is watching, the other half is pretending not to." "I didn't call for help," Elias replied. "I know," Rhea said. "That's why we came." Behind her, human ships waited, not a fleet, a presence, freighters modified for defense. Old cruisers kept alive by stubborn crews, civilian vessels with reinforced hulls, humans who chose to stand. Sarilith watched in silence, her hands clasped tightly. "They come not for power," she whispered, "but for principle." Elias ended the call and turned to her. "No one owes me anything. They're here because they want to be." That was when the alien coalition made its move. A formal broadcast echoed across open channels. Ancient symbols filled the screens. A gathering of powerful houses, speaking with one voice. They declared the Concubine bond invalid. They declared Sarilith and Lyra enemies of the state. And they declared Elias Ward a criminal under galactic law. Sarilith closed her eyes when she heard it. "This is exile without end." Elias looked at the symbols calmly. "No. This is negotiation." The coalition's fleet arrived 3 days later. It filled the sky, ships of many designs united by purpose, enough firepower to erase the settlement and everything around it. Humans did not flee, they gathered. Human ships took positions around the settlement, not hiding behind shields but standing openly. No first strike, no threats, just presence. Elias transmitted a single message. "This is human space by choice, not claim. You will not take what is under our protection." The coalition responded by demanding surrender within one standard hour. Sarilith walked to the center of the command room. Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. "I must speak," she said. Elias studied her. "They won't listen." "They will," she replied. "Not because I am royal, but because I choose to stand with humans." The transmission went out. Sarilith appeared on screens across the battlefield. She wore no crown, no symbols of power, only simple clothing. "I am Sarilith of Virlia," she said, "once a princess. Now a mother." She held Lyra's hand. "My people taught me that power comes from bloodlines and control," she continued. "Humans taught me that power comes from choice." Murmurs spread across alien channels. "I was not taken," Sarilith said firmly. "I asked. I chose protection under human law because humans protect without ownership." She looked directly into the camera. "If you strike now," she said, "you do not reclaim order, you reveal fear." The coalition commanders hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Elias gave the order. Human ships did not fire weapons. They opened data streams. Records poured into the network, evidence of the coup, assassinations, false trials, erased witnesses. Information humans had gathered quietly, patiently. The truth spread faster than weapons ever could. Chaos erupted among the coalition. Some ships powered down, others pulled back. Arguments filled the channels. A single alien commander broke formation and fired anyway. The shot never reached its target. Human interceptors moved instantly, disabling the ship with surgical precision. No deaths, just a message. Humans could end this, but they chose restraint. The coalition fleet began to fracture. Some withdrew entirely, others opened negotiations. By the end of the day, the battle never happened. Instead, something far more dangerous took its place. Change. Days later, representatives arrived in person. Not warriors, diplomats. They sat across from Elias, Sarilith, and human commanders in a plain room with no decorations. "You have altered precedent," one alien said carefully. Elias replied simply, "We followed our law. That law challenges ours." "Then yours needs work," Elias said without anger. Sarilith spoke next. "I do not seek a throne," she said. "I seek safety for my child." "And a future where choice matters." Silence followed. Finally, the eldest alien representative spoke. "The concubine bond may be reclassified." Elias raised an eyebrow. "As what?" "Guardianship by consent," the alien said slowly. "Recognized across member states." Sarilith's breath caught. Lyra squeezed Elias' hand. The agreement spread quickly. Other species took notice. Old customs weakened. New ideas took root. Humans returned to their routines, but something had changed. They were no longer unseen. One evening, Elias stood outside with Sarilith and Lyra, watching human and alien ships depart peacefully. "I never thought I would survive," Sarilith said quietly, "much less change anything." Elias shrugged. "Survival has a way of doing that." Lyra looked up at the stars. "Will they come back?" "Maybe," Elias said, "but not like before." Sarilith turned to him. "You never asked for anything in return." "I got what I wanted," he said. "What was that?" He looked at Lyra, laughing softly as she chased a small drone. "A universe that learned something," he replied. And somewhere far away, ancient powers adjusted their understanding of humanity. Not as conquerors, not as servants, but as guardians who stood firm when it mattered most. Months passed, and the frontier settlement became more than just a place of refuge. It had grown into a symbol, a small, determined human world standing in quiet defiance against the vast galaxy. Elias Ward moved among his people with calm authority, always aware of the balance between vigilance and trust. He had long ago learned that fear could paralyze, but discipline could protect. And now, with Sarilith and Lyra by his side, he had more to protect than just walls and machines. Sarilith had changed too. She no longer moved with the rigid formality of a princess in exile. Instead, she walked with a quiet confidence, teaching the child, learning human customs, and adapting to a life that demanded resilience more than titles. The bond they had formed with Elias was no longer just legal or political. It had become personal. Respect, trust, and an unspoken understanding grew between them, replacing the fear that had dominated their first days. Lyra, now taller and more energetic than when she had arrived, had begun exploring the settlement with curiosity. She wandered among the workshops, observing engineers soldering circuits and pilots calibrating drones. Each human she met treated her kindly, not because she was royal, but because she was a child under protection. That simple respect made her eyes shine with happiness, and Sarilith often found herself smiling at how quickly her daughter had adapted to this new life. One morning, the peace was interrupted. A patrol ship returning from the Outer Rim carried unexpected visitors. They were emissaries from distant alien houses, some curious, some cautious. The messages they brought were not threats this time, but proposals, negotiations. They wanted to understand how a human had successfully defended an alien princess without bloodshed, how frontier law could challenge ancient empires. Elias greeted them in the main hall, standing tall and composed. Sarilith accompanied him and Lyra stayed close, holding her mother's hand. The emissary's leader, a tall figure with scales and ceremonial markings, bowed in greeting. "Human," he said, "your actions have altered precedents we believed unchangeable. We wish to learn from them." Elias inclined his head. "You may learn, but only if you respect the choice I made. Protection is not ownership. Guardianship is responsibility, and responsibility is earned, not taken." The alien emissaries exchanged glances. Some looked skeptical, others cautious. One spoke for the group. "Your method of restraint yet decisive action, it is not what we expected from humans. Why do you act this way?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Because if humans do not protect the vulnerable, no one will. Not because it is law, not because it is convenient, but because it is necessary. And if we fail ourselves." Sarilith watched him speak, a quiet pride swelling inside her. The galaxy might see Elias as a soldier or an outcast, but she knew him as a man who chose not to abandon the helpless. And in that choice, she had found a trust she had never believed possible. The emissaries left with new understanding, but the galaxy was not entirely changed. Some powers still resented the precedent, still whispered about weakness in letting humans protect aliens. Yet, for the first time, humans were not ignored. Their actions had ripples far beyond the small frontier world. Life at the settlement slowly returned to a careful routine. Sarilith taught Lyra to read human maps and codes, showing her that survival was not only about defense but also knowledge. Elias trained the settlement militia, emphasizing precision, strategy, and restraint. The human way of protecting, calm, calculated, and unwavering, began to shape both alien visitors and the younger generation of humans growing up at the edge of space. One evening, Elias found Sarilith standing alone on the observation deck, looking at the stars. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in streaks of gold and violet. "They are still watching us," she said softly. Elias stepped beside her. "Yes, but watching is different from threatening." "They may come again," she admitted, "to challenge the bond or to claim what they think is theirs." Elias nodded. "Then we will stand again. That is all we can do. And when we do, they will see that humans do not back down lightly. Not for titles, not for gold, not for fear." Sarilith turned to face him. "You have taught me much, Elias, not only about humans, but about choice and courage, about protecting something more important than yourself." Elias studied her, the words heavy in the quiet air. "I didn't teach you anything. You chose to trust me. That choice, it is yours. That is what makes it powerful." Lyra ran up to them, holding a small drone she had been working on. "Look, I made it fly," Elias smiled. "I see it. You've learned well." Sarilith laughed quietly, watching her daughter. "Your people, they inspire even the smallest among us." The sun disappeared below the horizon. Lights from the settlement glowed softly, reflecting in the eyes of humans and aliens alike. And in that glow, a new understanding settled, a truth the galaxy had long ignored. Humans did not rely on fear or power or ancient law to protect what mattered. Humans relied on will, on choice, on the quiet, unwavering decision to stand when others fled. And that decision, repeated again and again, could change the course of worlds. Weeks later, an envoy from Sarilith's home planet arrived, not to demand surrender, but to propose alliance. They came because the example of human guardianship could not be ignored, and while the old ways still held some power, a new standard began to emerge. Choice mattered. Law mattered, guardianship mattered. Sarilith looked at Elias as the envoys approached. "You have changed more than just the rules, haven't you?" she said. Elias allowed himself a rare smile. "I didn't change them, I just stood where it mattered." Humans follow when they see others choose right. Lyra tugged at her hand, whispering, "Mother, can we show them our home?" "Yes," Sarilith said, her voice steady. "We will show them everything, not as a kingdom or as rulers, but as humans and those we protect." That night the settlement celebrated quietly. Fires burned low. Drones hovered and blinked in rhythm with the music of human laughter. Aliens who had come to negotiate watched in amazement. No violence, no threats. Only trust and the bond of guardianship recognized across cultures. Elias sat on a ridge overlooking the settlement. Sarilith joined him, her hand brushing his. Lyra fell asleep between them, exhausted from the day's excitement. "You kept them safe," Sarilith said. "We kept each other safe," Elias corrected. "And the galaxy?" she asked. He gazed at the stars. "The galaxy will watch now, and when it sees humans choose to protect the helpless, it will remember, not because of power, but because of courage. That is humanity's strength." Sarilith rested her head on his shoulder. "Then we are safe, at least for now." Elias smiled faintly. "Safe enough to live, safe enough to build, safe enough to teach the next generation that standing firm is stronger than any fleet or title." They watched as the horizon shifted from darkness to the faint glow of dawn. A new day was coming. Not for kings or queens, not for empires or fleets, but for humans who chose to stand, and for those who needed protection. And in that quiet, luminous morning, the settlement, Sarilith, Lyra, and Elias all understood a truth that would echo far beyond the frontier. The galaxy may be vast and cruel, but when humans decide to protect, they do so completely, unyieldingly, and without hesitation. The galaxy would not forget. Humans had stood, and that was enough to change everything. Sarilith whispered to Elias, "We are not just survivors." "No," he said softly, "we are the reason others will learn to stand too." And together, the three of them, human, alien, and child, watched the suns rise, knowing that even in the darkest corners of the universe, courage, choice, and guardianship could shine brighter than any star.